All right, hello folks. Sorry for the late start here. My name is Jill McClellan. I'm a planner with HRM and I'm with the social policy group and my focus is on affordable housing. And we'll also be joined in this meeting with my colleagues, Deanna Wilmshurst, who will be helping provide support with today's online presentation, as well as Jamie Ellen Klenovic, who will also be helping potentially moderating with some of the questions. Although I'll warn you, we are coming up with a couple of technical difficulties at the beginning, so hopefully we'll get Jamie Ellen in here as well. But nevertheless, I do want to start the presentation. The intent of today is to go over the new affordable housing grant program that HRM is offering for this year, to talk about what types of applications we can consider and to go through the process of the application form. Just give me a second here while I transition slides. Great. Okay, so before we do begin today, I do want to acknowledge that we are in Mi'kma'ki. This is the ancestral, unceded, and traditional lands of the Mi'kmaq people. HRM acknowledges the peace and friendship treaties signed in this territory, and we recognize that we are all treaty people. I'd also like to affirm that we are in the decade for people of African descent. African Nova Scotians are distinct founding people in our community who have been a key part to Nova Scotia culture and history. We acknowledge that the African teachings, strength, and perseverance continue to challenge and inspire our community. And then also, before we get into the main body of the presentation, I also do want to give people some quick instructions for using Microsoft Teams. So first of all, if you would like to use closed captioning for today's session, please click the CC button in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. You may leave the session at any time by clicking the Leave button in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. The link to the session will remain active throughout the event, so you can return if you would like. And the main goal of this session is to answer your questions and gather feedback. So you can submit questions and comments through the session using the chat screen by go to the chat screen at the right of the presentation by clicking Ask a Question. It's shown in purple there. As the minutes of the session will form the public record, you are welcome to include your name with your question. However, if you do want to post anonymously, you also have that option as well, just by clicking Post as Anonymous. You then may type your question where it asks for a question, and we will direct the questions to myself, really. So a bit of an agenda for today's meeting. I already kind of touched on this a bit. I do want to provide an overview of the 2021-22 HRM Affordable Housing Grant Program, provide a little background to why this program was created, go over who's eligible to apply, what kind of projects will be considered, and we'll do a walkthrough through the application form. I'm also going to highlight some key dates and then also talk about some other municipal programs that may be applicable to your project, just so you're aware of them. And then we'll open up the question and answer session. So first off, the Affordable Housing Grant Program. This was created as a means to allocate cash in lieu for affordable housing through an incentive or bonus zoning program. This was introduced through Centre Plan Package A in 2019. This requires that any buildings over a size of 2,000 square meters are required to provide a form of public benefit, and 60% of that public benefit must be cash in lieu for affordable housing. The cash in lieu amount is determined based on the amount of extra development that you're doing. On September 30th, 2020, Regional Council approved New Administrative Order 2020-008 ADM, respecting grants for affordable housing. So this includes all of the criteria for the grant program and will includes a lot of the information that we're going to be outlining in this presentation today. It does talk about definitions for affordable housing, which talks about supporting housing for those to low to moderate income, and also talks about a nonprofit organization. A nonprofit organization is any registered nonprofit organization or registered charity. As part of HRM's 2021-22 budget approval, $200,000 was allocated from the cash in lieu collected for affordable housing for this year's grant program. However, because it was collected through the cash in lieu for the incentive for bonus zoning program, it must be allocated to projects within the regional center, since that's where the money was collected. As such, on September 28th, 2021, Regional Council approved an additional $200,000 from Planning and Development's operational budget to allow for the consideration of projects anywhere within the municipality. So to kind of lay that out a bit more clearly, we have a total of $400,000 that can be allocated through this program for this year. $200,000 must be allocated within the regional center, whereas an additional $200,000 can be allocated anywhere within the municipality. What kind of projects can be considered? So funding is intended for the development or renovation of affordable residential units. So this includes costs associated with construction. So that's, work for your design, costs related to materials, labor, and permit fees. It also includes costs associated with renovations or rehabilitation of units. So again, looking at materials, labor, design work, permit fees. Center Plan Package B, which was just approved by Council last night, also allows for the consideration of property or building assessments. So assessments to ensure that you're to understand what sort of repairs are required for your units or for your existing building, and also opens up the ability to use the funds for the purchase of land or units. Before we can actually use the funds for this, the AO needs to be amended. We are in the process of amending this AO, so we want to let folks know that you can apply for funding for the purchase of land or units or for property or building assessments, but just know that before we can actually grant those funds, the AO amendments need to be completed. The funding is intended mainly for nonprofit housing organizations. So again, that's any registered nonprofit or registered charitable organization that provides housing. We will consider some partnerships with private developers. However, this is only in the case where the nonprofit will own a portion of the units. So if you're going to partner with a private developer, you must end up with actual ownership of specific units, and those are the units that we can help fund. The AO includes a list of criteria, which I will go over through the next couple slides. But for this year's program, we are going to focus on projects that can start construction within the next year. Other criteria that's included in the AO is that projects have applied or are eligible for funding from provincial or federal governments, including CMHC. We see this funding as a way to help bridge external funding from other government sources as well. We'll also be looking for projects. We'll also provide prioritization to projects that are required to provide a public benefit for incentive or bonus zoning. So if you are a nonprofit that's building within the regional center and you're required to provide cash in lieu for affordable housing, seeing that you're already developing the affordable housing that we're looking for, we'll find a way to make sure that that money gets back to you. We'll also look at prioritizing projects by nonprofits who currently serve those in need of deep affordability, knowing that those are the hardest units to fund. So if you're already doing that, then we want to be able to support you to continue to be able to do that. We'll also be looking for projects that will exceed accessibility requirements code, as well as energy efficient design requirements as well. We'll also prioritize projects that have received an order from the municipality to comply with our minimum standards bylaw. So if you're required to complete repairs to your building to ensure that it can continue to operate and it's been by order of the municipality, then we want to make sure you have access to funds to be able to support that. And then the next couple items look at making sure that you have the financial ability for this development. So we want to see projects that can demonstrate financial self-sustainability. So that may be a mixed market development where you have some deep affordable units and more moderate or even market level units. We also want to see applicants that can demonstrate that they have the capacity to support additional housing units. So to show that, you know, you're currently own and maintain existing affordable units, and that you have the capacity to be able to take on more. And again, we want to see that you have experience with successfully managing your existing affordable housing dwelling units as well. We will be looking to balance the allocation of money through the density or incentive bonus program to different areas within the regional center. And because we have the additional funds as well, to areas throughout the municipality. So we want to make sure that we're capturing, we don't want to put all, we want to make sure that we're able to help as many areas of the municipality as possible. So for a copy of the application form and more information regarding the grant program, you can click on this link here. It's the Affordable Housing Grant Program webpage. And for the next couple slides, I'm going to go through the application form. The application form is divided into 7 sections. So the first is fairly straightforward. We're looking for your contact information. What's the name of your organization? Do you have a project title? And then who is the person that we're going to be in communication regarding this grant application? The next looks at the project description. So of course we want an address for the project. We want to know if you own the property or not. If you do not own the property, or it's going to be a partnership development, we do want some sort of level of comfort that the property is either going to be sold to you, whether it's a purchase and sale agreement, whether it's a letter from the property owner expressing their intent to sell. Again, if it's a partnership arrangement, then we want a letter agreeing to the arrangement that the nonprofit will have ownership of the affordable units at the end of the development. We want an idea of the number of residential units. So we want the total number of units and then the total number that will be deemed affordable. And then we'll be looking for a breakdown of the unit types. So how many bachelors, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 or more bedrooms, how many units in total, how many of those types of units will be affordable, and the average size of each unit. We'll then be looking for a description of the level of affordability and what population groups your development will target. So if you can include rents, that would be great. We also want to know, are you targeting deep affordability or more moderate affordability? Are you targeting specific demographics as part of your development as well? So any information you can provide along that would be is helpful in our review. We'll also, and then of course, any additional information that you feel is relevant to support your project, we want you to include that as well too. We'll be looking for an anticipated start date and completion. We won't necessarily hold these to you, but we want to understand when you're planning on starting development and when you're aiming for completion. And then we also want a status of the project. So your project might be, you know, nearly ready to start development. So you can state that. If you're in the earlier stages, we want to know that too. We also want you to be able to identify any barriers that may delay the development. So do you have issues regarding zoning? Are there issues regarding acquiring funding for operational costs? Are there issues with the land that we need to know about or that you're aware that may delay the project? The next section looks at the request for funding. So we want to know the total amount of funding being requested to HRM. There's no maximum amount of funding. However, we'll only consider projects that are asking for more than $500. Something I will note, and that I should have noted earlier, is that this is the first year for this program. So we're going to be fairly broad in the requests for funding that we'll accept, knowing again that our budget for this year is at $400,000. The total amount of funding required for the development. So we want to know how much you're looking for from the municipality, and then how much funding is required specifically for the development. We want you to list all sources of funding, whether they're confirmed or pending. If they're confirmed, it would be great to have a letter that states that it's been confirmed. And if it's pending, note stating what the source is and what the amount is. We'll also be looking for organizations to outline how they'll be able to maintain operational expenses. So that would be helpful as part of your application as well. If you're applying for renovations or the rehabilitation to existing units, we want you to fill out this following section. So we want to provide a description of the work that needs to be completed, such as the extent of required repairs, and then also to explain how these proposed renovations are necessary to maintain the availability of the affordable housing dwelling units. So we want to understand, are these what will happen if these renovations don't happen? Will the units be taken off the market? Or, will it just mean that they won't be efficient in the way that they run as well? We also want you to provide a description how the project will improve the energy efficiency of the building. And then please provide an estimate for at least 2 professional contractors for the proposed repairs. You can provide more if you want, but we ask for at least a minimum of 2. For projects for the construction of new affordable units, we will want you to complete this following section. So first, we'll want to understand if you already have assured that your building will comply with the development rules with the municipality. We will be checking this regardless, but it will be helpful to know if this is something that you've already verified. We'll also then want, similar to the last section, we'd want a description of how your project will meet or exceed the energy efficiency requirements of the National Building Code. And then we'll also be looking for a pro forma that identifies all hard and soft costs with the development, any fees that may be eligible to the municipality. In a later slide, I will note that the municipality will waive the majority of construction-related fees, but there are some fees, such as the Halifax water fee, that we're unable to waive. We want you to identify all sources of financing, both confirmed and unconfirmed. That's already been requested earlier in this application form, so that can be included as part of that. And then looking for your estimated operational costs and rental income, and the names and experience of the project management team for the project. We also want an understanding of your number of years. We also, in the next section, are looking for information regarding your organization. So how many years of experience in providing housing does your organization have? We will accept definitely submissions from newer organizations that are just entering into housing, but we do want to understand if this is new to you or if this is something you've been doing for a while. If you have other residential properties that your organization currently owns and manages, we want you to provide a list of those projects, and including the information contained there as well. And then we also want a summary of your organization, including what services you offer and examples of similar projects you've participated in or have led. So your organization may be primarily in the business of providing housing. That is fine. We just want to understand that. However, you may be a part of an organization that also provides support services as well. So we want to understand what exactly do you provide as part of your organization. We also want a list of your board of directors, so the name, their position, and contact information. We have space there for 5 board members, so you can attach a list if you need more than that. And then again, any additional information that you think we should be considering when reviewing your application, we want you to include that as well. The last section is mainly just a document checklist. It's there as a reminder of when you're submitting your application. Do you have do you have the following information? And not depending on your project, you may not be required to provide all this information, but it's just a checklist to make sure that if you are required to provide the additional information, that you're including it. So that includes the copy of the signed letter or agreement confirming the property or units will be conveyed to your organization. It includes the copies of the detailed estimates if you're doing a renovation project, and then the project pro forma if you're doing a new development. You're also encouraged to provide any additional information that, again, you may feel will complement your application. So that was a view of the application form. Regarding next steps for the application or the key dates, so the only firm date in here is the December 1st date. This is the deadline for receiving applications. That is within the AO. That's something we cannot deviate from. So I encourage you to submit applications before December 1st if you can. Will give us a chance to do a preliminary review, but December 1st is the cutoff date. During the month of December, HRM staff will be completing a preliminary review of all applications. We'll send you an acknowledgement email letting you know that we've received your submission, and we'll also include any initial questions that we think will be that will be important for part of the more formal review process. In January of 2022, we will do a more formal review of the applications. This review body will be comprised of members of HRM staff, and we hope to include members of the Housing and Homelessness Partnership as well. So that may include participants from the province or CMHC, and that review team is currently in the process of being created. So during the month of January, we will do the formal application review, and then by February 2022, we hope to select our submissions. Through this grant program, it does not require council approval. Grants will be distributed through our CAO. So once our CAO has approved our submissions, our selections, we can then start to work on contribution agreements with the successful parties and provide and start providing funding. Should we need to return to council at any point, though, that will be done through a separate report and likely separate process. And then through this spring of 2022, we do hope to reach out to nonprofit groups, again, to hold a debrief session to understand what worked and what did not work with this grant program and how we can improve it in future years as well. Before we get into the question and answer session, I do want to just provide a quick overview of other municipal programs that may be beneficial for your developments. So this includes the Affordable Housing Initiatives webpage. So it's a webpage that just shown below there. And that includes recent initiatives HRM, mainly our planning and development group, has been undertaking to support affordable housing development. So it includes land use bylaw simplification projects, financial support projects, and just a variety, our work plan, our partnerships with the Housing and Homelessness Partnership and other groups, and just shows you kind of a summary of a lot of the initiatives that we've been working on and future initiatives that we will be working on over the next year. I'll also highlight the nonprofit resources webpage. So this provides resources the municipality provides for all types of nonprofits. Some of them are housing related, some of them are not, and some of them are more broad and can be impacted, can support a myriad of different types of nonprofits. Specific programs I do want to highlight is our fee waiver program. So in November of 2020, HRM Council approved the fee waiver for the majority of our municipal construction related fees. So this includes permit fees, planning application fees, subdivision fees for nonprofit housing projects. We also have a property tax relief program. So depending on the types of services you provide as a nonprofit, you will be eligible for a certain level of property tax relief. And then we also have a surplus land program. The surplus land program is aimed towards nonprofits through two different categories. One is the community interest category, which is open to all nonprofits. And then we also have a surplus land program for affordable housing, which is open specifically to nonprofit affordable housing groups. We're currently in the process of starting to determine land to be included within that surplus land program and hope to share more information over the next couple months on that as well. We're now at the question and answer session. So just as a reminder as to how to ask questions. So if you do have a question, you can click on the purple button in the lower right-hand corner saying ask a question. Again, if you want your name on the record, you can include your name. If you want to stay as anonymous, you can click on the anonymous button. You then can include your question in the ask a question space. And then we can go ahead and answer your questions. So thank you so much. If you do have any further questions, you can feel free to contact myself, Jill McClellan. I have my email address there, and Jamie Ellen Klenovic, and her email address and her phone number is there as well too. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jill. I do see one question has come in already, and it says, can two nonprofit organizations apply in partnership with one another?
Definitely. Yeah, we'd be more than happy to see a partnership between nonprofits, and should you be successful, we can then work out through the contribution agreement how funds are distributed, but we definitely can consider partnerships between nonprofits.
Excellent. There are at this point no other questions, but I think there was some conversation about showing the AO, maybe the section within the AO that needs some attention.
What? Okay. Yes, let me see if I can.
Okay, well, and perhaps Jill, while you're doing that, we did have another question that's come in here,
Okay, perfect.
and it says, "What is meant by construction completed in the next year?"
We want construction at least started within the next year. We can work with the contribution agreement to determine when construction will be completed. Again, this program is designed to be fairly flexible. We do want to see projects that are ready to start building. It doesn't necessarily have to be completed within the next year. I think, I know projects considered under the Rapid Housing Initiative have those tighter deadlines. So we want to provide a little bit more flexibility within this building, but we do want to see projects that are ready to kind of start breaking ground. So I hope that helps clarify the question. So it doesn't necessarily have to be finished within the next year. We're looking more for starting construction within the next year.
Thank you. Sounds good. At this point, there are no other questions. If you wanted to address that AO issue, you're welcome to do so.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to highlight some of the ineligible costs. So this is right in the AO. It's right in Section 9 of the AO. That right now, private sector construction for affordable housing dwelling units cannot be considered, again, unless it's through that private nonprofit partnership. And in the nonprofit partnership, we can only help the construction related material costs associated with those units that will be owned by the nonprofit. Just for clarity as well too, we can't consider the rehabilitation of affordable housing dwelling units that are not owned by a nonprofit organization. So that's just further reiterating that we really cannot be helping the private sector expenses at this moment. And then additionally, the cost cannot be used for operational expenses. So we can't cover wages for employees of the nonprofit or to recover debt payment or losses from previous fiscal years. It has to be used for the specific, only for capital projects for these affordable units.
Okay, we do have another question that's come in, if you'd like to take that.
Sure, that'd be great.
It's saying, is this initiative in partnership with the province or solely an HRM program?
It's solely an HRM program. However, we do hope to work with projects that are being funded by the province or through CMHC. So again, this program was created as a means to allocate the funding that was collected as cash in lieu for affordable housing. So we can solely fund a portion of the project, or solely fund a project that doesn't have funding from the province or CMHC, but I foresee that this funding being able to work in partnership with other programs from other forms of government.
Okay, thank you. At this point, there are no other questions, unless there's something else you'd like to share.
Yeah, we did receive some earlier questions from folks just wondering like how many projects might be selected or how the money will be distributed. And again, it will really depend on the applications that we receive. So if we have, only one strong application, we have the ability to provide funding just to that project. If we receive several really strong applications, and there's the ability to kind of share or help support several projects, we'll consider that as well too. But just wanted to provide clarification that there's no specific number of projects we'll consider or specific amount of money that can be allocated to a project.
Excellent. Anything else you'd like to share? There are still no more additional questions.
I think that is it. But again, please do reach out to myself or Jamie Ellen should you have any additional questions. I do want to confirm that this presentation is going to be put online, so you can always watch back to get our contact information. There also is a link to an email address and to more broader email address on the webpage that if you click on that, me or Jamie Ellen will receive that and we'll get back to you as well. So thank you so much. I really appreciate everybody who attended, and thank you again to Deanna and Jamie Ellen for helping put this together.